ஹலோ ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ், வெல்கம் டு ஐஎன்எஸ் லேர்னிங். நம்ம 6th ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் ஹிஸ்ட்ரி தான் பார்த்துட்ருக்கோம். ஸோ நம்ம ஆல்ரெடி ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டேர்ம் அண்ட் செகண்ட் டேர்ம் கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். நாம் இப்போ பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கிறது 6th ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் தேர்ட் டேர்ம் உடைய ஹிஸ்ட்ரி. ஸோ செகண்ட் யூனிட் தான் இன்றைக்கி பார்க்க போகிறோம். வாங்க வீடியோக்குள்ளே போகலாம். Unit 2, The Post-Mauryan India. Learning objectives: to acquire knowledge of the history of dynasties and kingdom that emerged after the breakup of Mauryan Empire. To gain an understanding of the polity, society, economy and culture of various kingdoms that were established in the south, north and northwest of India. To become familiar with their contribution to early medieval India. Introduction. In breakup of Mauryan Empire resulted in the invasions of Saka, Scythians, Parthians, Indo-Greeks or Bactrian Greeks and Kushanas from the northwest. In the south, Satavahana became independent after Ashoka's death. There were Sungas and Kanvas in the north before the emergence of Gupta dynasty. Chedis, Kalinga, declared their independence. நார்த்வெஸ்டில் யாரெல்லாம் இருந்தாங்கன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இண்டோகிரீக்ஸ், சாக்காஸ், பார்த்தியன்ஸ் அண்ட் குஷானாஸ். நார்த்தில் இருக்கிறவங்க சுங்காஸ் அண்ட் கன்வாஸ். சவுத்தில் இருக்கவங்க பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சத்தவானாஸ். ஸோ இதை ஒரு மைண்ட் மேப்பில் கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. It has to be noted here that though Magadha ceased to be the premier state of India, it continued to be the great center of Buddhist culture. Sources: the archaeological sources, inscriptions. Ayodhya inscription of Dhanadeva, Persepolis Nakshi Rustan inscriptions, Moga Taxila copper plate, Junagadh Girnar inscription, Nasik Parasati inscription of Darius I. Coins of Satavahanas, coins of Kadphises II, Roman coins. Literary sources: Puranas, Gargi Samhita, Harsha Charita of Banabhatta, Mahabhashya of Patanjali, Brihat Samhita of Gunadhya, Madhyamika Sutra of Nagarjuna, Buddha Charita of Ashwagosha, Malavika Agnimitra of Kalidasa. Foreign notice: Huansong, the Chinese Buddhist monk and traveler. The Sungas and Kanvas in the north. The Sungas. The last Mauryan emperor, Brihadratha, was assassinated by his own general Pushyamitra Sunga, who established his Sunga dynasty in Magadha. Pushyamitra made Pataliputra as his capital. Pushyamitra's kingdom extended westward to include Ujjain and Vidisha. He successfully repulsed the invasion of Bactria king Menander, but Menander managed to keep Kabul and Sindh. Pushyamitra thwarted an attack from the Kalinga king Karavela. He also conquered Vidarbha. He was a staunch follower of Vedic religion. He performed 2 Ashwamedha Yagnas, horse sacrifices, to assert his imperial authority. During the Sunga period, stone was replaced by wood in the railings and the gateways of Buddhist stupas as seen in Bharut and Sanchi. Pushyamitra was succeeded by his son Agnimitra. This Agnimitra is said to be the hero of Kalidasa's Malavika Agnimitram. The drama also refers to the victory of Vasumitra, Agnimitra's son, over the Greeks on the banks of Sindhu river. The weak successors of Sunga constantly faced threats from the Indo-Bactrians and Indo-Parthians. The Sunga dynasty lasted for about 100 years. The last Sunga was Devabhuti. He was killed by his own minister Vasudeva Kanva. Vasudeva established the rule of Kanva dynasty in Magadha. Importance of Sunga period. The Sungas played an important role in defending the Gangetic Valley from the encroachments of the Bactrian Greeks. Pushyamitra and then his successors revived Vedic religious practices and promoted Vaishnavism. Sanskrit gradually gained ascendancy and became the court language. Patanjali, the second grammarian in Sanskrit, was patronized by Pushyamitra. Though Pushyamitra persecuted Buddhists, during his reign, the Buddhist monuments at Bharuch and Sanchi were renovated and further improved. The great stupa of Sanchi and the railings which enclose it belong to the Sunga period. King Karavela of Kalinga was a contemporary of the Sungas. We get information about Karavela from the Hathigumpa inscriptions. Hathigumpa, elephant cave inscription. The Kanvas. The Kanva dynasty produced 4 kings and their rule lasted only for 45 years. The history of Magadha after the fall of Kanvas is devoid of any significance until the emergence of the Gupta dynasty. The Kanva rulers were Vasudeva, Bhumimitra, Narayana, Susarman. The last Kanva ruler, Susarman, was assassinated by his powerful feudatory chief of Andhra named Simukka, who laid the foundation of the Satavahana dynasty. Satavahanas in the south. The Kushanas in the north and the Satavahanas, Andhras, in the south flourished for about 300 years and 450 years respectively. Simukka, the founder of the Satavahana dynasty, is said to have ruled for 23 years. His successor was his brother Krishna. The latter and his nephew Satakarni ruled for 10 years each, establishing an empire holding control over a vast area stretching from Rajasthan in the northwest to Andhra in the southeast and from Gujarat in the west to Kalinga in the east. Satakarni is said to have performed 2 horse sacrifices, Aswamedha Yagna, indicative of his imperial position. So, the Satavahanas coins. Gautami Putra Satakarni was the greatest ruler of the family. In the Nasik Prahasti, published by his mother Gautami Balashri, Gautami Putra Satakarni is described as the destroyer of Sakas, Yavanas, and Pallavas. The extent of the empire is also mentioned in the record. Their domain included Maharashtra, North Konkan, Berar, Gujarat, Kathiawar, and Malwa. His ship coins are suggestive of Andhra's skill in seafaring and their naval power. The Bogar inscription suggests that South India played an important role in the process of early state formation in Southeast Asia. So, the Gautami Putra Satakarniude coin. Contributions of Satavahanas. Literature. Satavahana king Hala was himself a great scholar of Sanskrit. The Kantara school of Sanskrit flourished in the Deccan in 2nd century BC. Hala is famous as the author of Saptasati, 700 stanzas in Prakrit. Art and architecture. The Satavahana rulers were great builders. They began constructing Buddhist stupas in Amaravati. A bronze statue of the standing Buddha discovered in Ok Eo, in an archaeological site in Vietnam, resembles the Amaravati style. The later Satavahana kings issued lead or bronze coins depicting ships with 2 masts. A stone seal discovered in Nakhon Panthom in Thailand has the same design. Gandhara, Mathura, Amaravati, Bodh Gaya, Sanchi, and Bharuch were known for splendid monuments and art. The Mathura school of sculpture produced images and life-size statues of the Buddhist, Brahmanical, and Jain deities. The world-famous life-size statues of Buddhas at Bamyan Valley on the mountains of the erstwhile northwestern frontiers of Ancient India, currently in central Afghanistan and recently destroyed by the Taliban's, were carved out of the solid rocks by the dedicated artist of the Gandhara School of Art during post-Mauryan period. So இதுதான் அந்த ஸ்கல்ப்சர். அடுத்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா Indo-Greeks, Indo-Parthians, Sakas and Kushanas. Indo-Greeks and Indo-Parthians. After the conquest of northwestern India and the Punjab region, Alexander the Great left the conquered territories under provincial governors. Two of its eastern satrapies, Bactria and Parthia, revolted under their Greek governors and declared their independence. The satrapy of Bactria became independent under the leadership of Deiodatus I and Parthia under Arsaces. After the decline of the Mauryan Empire, the Greek rulers of Bactria and Parthia started encroaching into the northwestern borderlands of India. The Bactrian and Parthian settlers gradually intermarried and intermixed with the indigenous population. This facilitated the establishment of Indo-Greek and Indo-Parthian colonies along the northwestern part of India. Rulers of Indo-Greeks. Demetrius I. He was the son of Greco-Bactrian ruler Euthydemus. He was king of Macedonia from 294 to 288 BC. Numismatic evidence provides that Demetrius issued bilingual square coins with Greek on the obverse and Kharoshthi on the reverse. Scholars are not able to decide which of the three named Demetrius was the initiator of the Yavana era, commencing from 2nd century BC in India. Meander. So, இது Demetrius-ஓட coin, இது வந்து Meander-ஓட coin. Meander was one of the best known Indo-Greek kings. He is said to have ruled a large kingdom in the northwest of the country. His coins were found over an extensive area ranging from Kabul Valley and Indus River to western Uttar Pradesh. Milindapana, a Buddhist text, is a discourse between Bactrian king Milinda and learned Buddhist scholar Nagasena. This Milinda is identified with Meander. Meander is believed to have become a Buddhist and promoted Buddhism. Contributions of Indo-Greeks. Coinage. Indo-Greek rulers introduced a die system and produced properly shaped coins with inscriptions, symbols, and engraved figures on them. Indians learnt this art from them. Sculpture. The Gandhara school of Indian art is heavily indebted to Greek influence. The Greeks were good cave builders. The Mahayana Buddhists learned the art of carving caves from them and became skilled in rock cut architecture. Sakas. The Indo-Greek rule in India was ended by Sakas. Sakas as nomads came in huge number and spread all over northern and western India. The Sakas were against the tribe of Turkey nomads. Sakas were Scythians, nomadic ancient Iranians, and known as Sakas in Sanskrit. Saka rule was founded by Maus and Mogaina in the Gandhara region, and his capital was Sirkap. His name is mentioned in Mora inscription. His coins bear images of Buddha and Shiva. Rulers of Indo-Parthians, Pallavas. Indo-Parthians came after the Indo-Greeks and the Indo-Scythians, who were in turn defeated by the Kushanas in the second half of 1st century AD. Indo-Parthian kingdom or Gondopharid dynasty was founded by Gondophares. The domain of Indo-Parthians comprised Kabul and Gandhara. The name of Gondophares is associated with the Christian apostle St. Thomas. According to Christian tradition, St. Thomas visited the court of Gondophares and converted him to Christianity. Rudradaman was the most famous king of Sakas. His Junagadh or Girnar inscription was the first inscription in chaste Sanskrit. In India, the Sakas were assimilated into Indian society. They began to adopt Indian names and practice Indian religious beliefs. So, this is the Junagadh inscription. Rudradamanudaya coin. The Sakas appointed Kshatrapas or satraps as provincial governors to administer them territories. Kushanas. The Kushanas formed a section of a Yuchi tribes who inhabited northwestern China in the remote past. In the 1st century BC, the Yuchi tribes were composed of 5 major sections, of which the Kushanas attained political ascendancy over others. By the beginning of Christian era, all the Yuchi tribes had acknowledged the supremacy of the Kushanas. They had shed their nomadic habits and settled down in the Bactrian and Parthian lands adjacent to the northwestern border of India. The Kushanas overran Bactria and Parthia and gradually established themselves in northern India. Their concentration was mostly in the Punjab, Rajputana, and Kathiawar. Kushana rulers were Buddhists. Takshashila and Mathura continued to be great centers of Buddhist learning, attracting students from China and Western Asia. The Kushana kings, Kanishka. The Kanishka was the greatest of all the Kushana emperors. He assumed the sovereignty in 78 AD and proclaimed his rule by the foundation of new era, which later became Saka era. The Kushana capital initially was Kabul. Later it was shifted to Peshawar and Purshapura. So rulers and contributions இது கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. So rulersல வந்து Kadphises 1. He was the first famous military and political leader of Kushanas. He overthrew the Indo-Greek and Indo-Parthian rulers and established himself as a sovereign ruler of Bactria. He extended his power in Kabul, Gandhara and up to the Indus. Kadphises 2. He maintained friendly relationship with the emperors of China and Rome and encouraged trade and commerce with the foreign countries. Some of his coins contain the inscribed figures of Lord Shiva, and his imperial titles were inscribed in the Kharoshthi language. Conquest. Kanishka conquered and annexed Kashmir. He waged a successful war against Magadha. He also waged a war against a ruler of Parthia to maintain safety and integrity in his vast empire on the western and southwestern border. After the conquest of Kashmir and Gandhara, he returned his attention towards China. He defeated the Chinese general Pan Chiang and safeguarded the northern borders of India from Chinese intrusion. His empire extended from Kashmir down to Benares and the Vindhya mountain in the south. It included Kashgar, Yarkand, touching the borders of Persia and Parthia. Religious policy. Kanishka was an ardent Buddhist. Kanishka's empire was a Buddhist empire. Kanishka adopted Buddhism under the influence of Ashwagosha, a celebrated monk from Pataliputra. Though a great warrior and an empire builder, Kanishka was as equal as an exponent and champion of Mahayanism. Kanishka made Buddhism as a state religion and built many stupas and monasteries in Mathura, Taxila and many other parts of his kingdom. He sent Buddhist monasteries to Tibet, China and many countries of Central Asia for the propagation of Buddhist gospel. He organized the 4th Buddhist Council at Kundalavana near Srinagar to sort out the differences between the various schools of Buddhism. It was only in this council that Buddhism was split into Hinduism and Mahayanism. Art and literature. Kanishka was a great patron of art and literature. His court was adorned with a number of Buddhist saints and scholars like Ashwagosha, Vasumitra and Nagarjuna. ஸோ இது வந்து கனிஷ்காவுடைய அந்த எம்பையர். பெஷாவர் வந்து அவங்களுடைய கேபிட்டல். தக்சிலா, காந்தாரா, சிந்த், மதுரா, கேஞ்சஸ் வேலி வரைக்குமே இருந்திருக்காங்க அவங்க. Ashwagosha was the celebrated author of the first Sanskrit play, Buddha Charita. He founded the town of Kanishkapura in Kashmir and furnished the capital of Purushapura with magnificent public building. The Gandhara school of art flourished during his time. The most favorite subject of the Gandhara artist was the carving of sculptures of Buddha. Buddhist learning and culture was taken to China and Mongolia from Takshashila. And the great Asiatic culture mingled with Indian Buddhist culture during the Kushanas time. Kanishka's successors were weak and incompetent. Kushana Empire rapidly disintegrated into a number of small principalities. ஸோ அந்த காலகட்டத்தில் உலகத்தில் மற்ற இடத்துல என்ன நடந்துட்டு இருந்தது அப்படின்னா, குஷானா எம்பையர் கரஸ்பாண்டன்ட் வித் த லாஸ்ட் டேஸ் ஆஃப் ரோமன் ரிப்பப்ளிக் with Julius Caesar was alive. It is said that Kushana emperor sent a great embassy to Augustus Caesar. So இவர் Augustus Caesar, இவர் Julius Caesar. ஸோ இந்த லெசன் இதோட முடிஞ்சிருச்சு. நம்ம சம்மரி பார்த்துடலாம். The breakup of Mauryan Empire resulted in the invasions of Sakas, Scythians, Parthians, Indo-Greeks and Kushanas from the northwest. The last Mauryan emperor, Brihadratha, was assassinated by his own general Pushyamitra Sunga, who established Sunga dynasty in Magadha. The history of Magadha after the fall of Kanvas is devoid of any significance until the emergence of the Gupta dynasty. The Kushanas in the north and the Satavahanas Andhras in the south flourished for about 300 years and 450 years respectively. Rudradaman was the most important and famous king of Sakas. The best known of the Kushanas was Kanishka, who was an ardent follower of Mahayana form of Buddhism. Gandhara art developed during the period. ஸோ இதோட இந்த லெசன் முடியுது. நான் நெக்ஸ்ட் லெசனில் உங்களை மீட் பண்ணுறேன். ஸோ நீங்கள் வந்து இந்த லெசன் வந்து 6th ஸ்டாண்டர்டில் இருக்குங்க. அதே லெசன் அதே மாதிரி இப்போ நம்ம ஃபஸ்ட்லேருந்து பார்த்துட்டு வரோம் இல்லை, அதே மாதிரி ஃபர்ஸ்ட்லேருந்து எதில் இருக்குன்னா ஓல்டு 11th ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் புக்கில் இருக்குது. நீங்கள் அதையும் படிக்கலாம். ஏன்னா இதை படிச்சுட்டு அதை படிச்சிங்கன்னா அது உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு ரிவிஷன் போல் இருக்கும். இதில் இல்லாத நிறைய இன்ஃபர்மேஷன்ஸ் அதுலேயும் இருக்கும். ஸோ நீங்கள் அந்த புக்கும் படிங்க. அந்த புக்கோட வீடியோ நான் கூடிய சீக்கிரம் நான் மேக் பண்ணுறேன். ஸோ தேங்க்யூ ஃபார் வாட்சிங்.